YouTube. Thanks for coming with us. It's great to, well, I always say that it's great to see you, and of course I can't, but so we'll be running for another few minutes, another 5 minutes maximum, while the Zoom audience fully arrives. So do stick with us, and then I'll be handing over to Garavachitta to lead the evening. So do stick around, and speak to you a bit more in a few minutes. So Hridayaka, has it got too cold in the conservatory now? You usually come to meetings for the conservatory. Yeah. It looked very nice. I was thinking, oh, I'd rather be there. That looks nice. I think, and I've never said this, but I'm sure Kathy's in a barge. Is that right? Narrowboat, Kathy. Yeah, I thought you were. But really inviting. I was walking down the Grand Union Canal down south, looking at all the narrowboats this weekend, and thinking, that looks a good place to be. I'm sure it has its downsides as well as its upsides.
I can't think of any.
You can't? Oh, well, that's good to hear. Which canal are you on?
Trent and Mersey.
Trent and Mersey, oh, okay. So what would be the nearest town then, Kathy?
Well, I'm actually coming back up to Northwich at the moment, in Cheshire, up that end. And then I'm heading the other way. But I'm actually going down on the River Weaver.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
for a bit.
Does that mean, have you ever used the Anderton lift? Does it still work?
I hope it does. I'm using it tomorrow again.
Oh, wow. I've always thought that would be very exciting to go on that. It's probably not that.
It's quite fun.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah, it is if you're an anorak like me, yes.
Yeah, well, I am a bit, so. It's the only remaining one working one in Britain anyway, as far as I know.
Well, yes, unless you count the full Kirk wheel in Scotland.
Oh. Okay.
Which drifts you from one canal to another. That's a modern one.
Oh, right. Interesting. Of course, this isn't at all interesting to those who are not interested in canals, so apologies for that. I love them, but that's another matter. Hi, Anthony. Nice to see you. So give it 2 more minutes, and then we'll launch. I'll just say sort of brief intro to Garavachitta, and then hand over to him in a couple of minutes' time. Oh, Annie's here as well. Hi, Annie. This is good life. I start the morning with doing a meditation led by Analio, the German Sri Lankan Buddhist monk, and end it with one led by Garavachitta. What more could you want?
Gosh, what can you say to that?
The local version of Analio.
I'm not severe enough, I don't think.
Oh, he's got a very sing-song voice, really sing-song voice.
No, I did some of his. He's done some really good stuff on. I've appeared. I'm not meant to. Oh, can see myself. He's got some. Might be a bit better. He's got some very good led meditations on YouTube on death. Got some really good stuff on death.
Garavachitta, I think the reason why you just appeared then is that I spotlighted you. So I tend to what's called spotlight people when they're on YouTube, so that like you don't appear when no one else appears when they talk. So it's just the way. But I mean, I can keep people on mute because that's the only reason why.
Yeah, I would prefer that if we can.
Okay. Can you see yourself at the moment?
No, I've erased myself again now.
Okay. Yeah. I'll keep it like this. I'll just keep my eye on the people that are mute in there.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom. So I think we should start. So anyway, welcome to Garavachitta, who's a really good friend of mine, lives in the men's community, just 10 minutes away from me. So yeah, well, I don't want to embarrass him, but he's a very wise guy, actually, a wise chap. And there's a lot of very, very good reflections on the Dharma, and he's quite eclectic. I think he reads very widely from different traditions, and he really, really thinks about those and brings them together and melds them in a really interesting way. I think I find his ideas very, I don't know, very stimulating. I think, yeah. And he's also in my chapter, so we get to hang out every Sunday evening. So actually, he was very briefly, he came from Sheffield, didn't he? You did a lot of your early Buddhist tree Ratna Buddhist stuff in Sheffield, and then came over and actually supported one of my classes very early on. So I remember that long time ago. Anyway, we've had a long time together in the movement. So I'm going to hand over to him. I say no more. I'll leave it to you, Garavachitta.
Thank you, Sila Bodhi. Thank you. I'll just see if I can just put this on gallery view. Yeah, that's it. Oh, so it's slightly odd. Oh, I think you've been highlighted. That's why. I was trying to see Jonathan because I remember Jonathan. I think it's the Jonathan that I know, isn't it? From years and years ago with Tony. Hello, good to see you again. Okay, so thank you for inviting me, Sila Bodhi, and thank you for giving me, thank you for coming, everybody, and giving each other the opportunity to do a mixture, really, hopefully, of meditation and reflection. So, I think really one of the main things that interests me about Dharma practice is how to, in a sense, bring together the different aspects. Sometimes it's very easy to just meditate or just study, and what interests me very much, and for me is the sort of edge of my sort of transformative process, is bringing those two things together. And what that really means is, in a sense, using the direct experience of meditation, so using the experience, that much more close, direct experience of life and of ourselves that we can get through practicing meditation. So in a way, that's by turning inwards, you could say, to looking at ourselves and looking at how we experience the world, using that as the basis and as the raw material for reflecting on that experience from the light of the Buddha's teaching. So in a way, this evening I'll introduce a little bit. I'll talk a little bit of Dharma, I think, to set some context, and then I'll lead us in a longer practice where we will kind of, in a way, spend some time meditating and kind of coming closer to our experience, noticing our experience more deeply, and then just introduce a way of kind of bringing some of those dharmic reflections into our experience. And the particular topic that I wanted to look at, there's loads of dharmic topics one can reflect on, but the one that has interested me a lot in the last few years is Dukkha, or sometimes it's translated as unsatisfactoriness, sometimes it's translated as suffering, sometimes it's translated as stress or tension or pain. And all of those words point at it. In a way, it's a very broad kind of spectrum, dukkha. It can be like, it can be being in hell, it can be being in heaven, and it can be being everything in between, really. That's really what the Buddha's saying, that's the Buddha's teaching. And I think what there is I think we have, in our movement and in Western Buddhism generally, maybe even in parts of the Buddhist tradition in the East as well, a tendency to think that dukkha is only really about the hell aspect of life and the hell aspect of experience, So what we tend to do is, I think, as Buddhists, my experiences of myself as a Buddhist and other people who are Buddhists, you know, we sort of say, you know, you might ask them how they're going, and they're having a rough time, they've got a stinking cold, and then like their boyfriend or their girlfriend's left them or whatever, and you know, they lost their job, and they go, oh, it's dukkha, you know, it's suffering. This is, you know, what the Buddha says. But if they're sitting in, you know, in their garden in the sunshine, sipping a latte, reading a nice book, and you ask them how they're doing, they won't say it's dukkha. They'll say, oh no, things are really good, and I feel really happy. And in a way, that splitting things in that way is what causes a lot of problems for us. I think this is what the Buddha, we could call him the Dukkha rather than the Buddha, couldn't we? It's what the Buddha is pointing at, in a sense. That in a way, we have to, in the end, have the courage to see the whole of our experience as dukkha. And the reason for that is that we have to know dukkha so that we can let go of it. The normal human experience, or my human experience, I can't speak for everybody here, but my experience and what I observe in a lot of other people is that we oscillate and we're pushed around by the experience of pleasure and pain, basically. Yeah. So what that means is when we experience unpleasant sensations, unpleasant experience, we want to get rid of it and move away from it. But when we experience pleasant experience, we want it. We get infatuated by it and we appropriate it for ourselves. We take it into ourselves because we feel it shores up and gives us a sense of stability as a self. And when we experience unpleasant stuff, it does the opposite. So that's why we try and get away with it. So we can keep a self that is somehow kind of separate and intact, but without being challenged by the experience of dukkha, the pervasive experience of dukkha. And I think this is really a kind of key question for us as Buddhists, is how do we really set ourselves up to turn towards that experience of dukkha? Because I suspect that unless we really turn towards dukkha and experience it and get to know it, then we will we won't practice very much renunciation, because we will still think that our experience of the world is going to work, can still pay us back in some sort of way. What the Buddha says, there's a lot of faffle, I think. People talk about radical dharma, radical this, radical that, and a lot of it is, to my mind, is a load of psychologicalized nonsense. But actually, dukkha is the Buddha's radical teaching. He's actually saying everything of this world, so everything in your experience, everything about your body, and everything about your mind and your character and your personality is ultimately unsatisfying. It might be unpleasant. It might be pleasant, rather. It might be unpleasant, it might be pleasant, or it might be neutral, but it's ultimately unsatisfying. And it isn't, for this reason, it is not a safe refuge. It is not a place in which we can put our trust as a human being. And I think this is probably brought out, isn't it, in the Buddha's teachings and in our own experience of death. When we come close to that experience of death, either when we sense it about our own life or when we experience it in someone that we care or we love about or that we know or we come in contact with. Because that's when the dukkha really takes over, basically. And we can, at that point, we can no longer maintain a sense of stability in the face of the dukkha. And dukkha is important because we're quite good, I think, at impermanence. Yeah. So we look out the window and we see, like, you know, some coming autumnal, isn't it? And we have this kind of, like, you know, sweet and sensitive experience of the autumn, and we see change. And we notice maybe ourselves aging and various things as well. And we know that we will lose things, actually. But that doesn't stop us trying them, and it doesn't stop us investing in them. Bhikkhu, it's not, because the Ajahn Thanissaro talks about how impermanence is not enough to create real renunciation or non-attachment. And the example that he gives is sex. So, for example, we know that sex doesn't last forever. Yeah. So if you climb in bed with someone or with yourself or whatever it is, and you experience sexual pleasure and sensual pleasure in that sort of way, you're quite aware that it's not going to last. But it doesn't stop us wanting it, and it doesn't stop us indulging in it, and it doesn't stop us being attached to it as a habit. And the same is true of food, I think. So what the Buddha is teaching really with dukkha is that it's a case of actually, he has this teaching called, there's 3 words that he uses: asada, adinava, and nisara. And he calls it the gratification, the danger, or the drawback. So it's the gratification or the allure, the drawback or the danger, and the escape. Okay. So what he's talking about is our experience. So he's saying there is something alluring about our experience, basically. Yeah. This is this quality of pleasure and attraction in it. So that when we experience pleasure, we become gratified by our experience. That can be we can be gratified by quite gross sensual things, but we can also be gratified by ideas, by relationships, by conversations, all sorts of things. But he says with the gratification comes a danger. And the danger is that these things will change. So because we might find, we're habituated to find gratification in things that change, we then attach ourselves to a whole layer of experience and being, but a layer of experience and being that is changing. And when it changes, we experience loss and pain and anxiety and fear. So what he's asking us to look, the way he's asking us to look is he's trying to ask us not to look at, in a sense, the content of experience as being dukkha, but the structure of experience as being dukkha. And hopefully that will get revealed a little bit more when we lead when I lead the meditation in a little bit. Yeah, so he talks about the drawback of experience. The gratification, which is our normal way of relating to it, and then but we don't see the drawback. We don't see basically one of the ways that I think you can talk about dukkha is that it, for me, one of the ways is it hurts, basically. Yeah. What the Buddha's saying is actually at a fundamental level, everything that we experience hurts. Fortunately, you're not stuck there, and there is an escape. So we can move forward, or we can move away from this experience of this pervasive quality of experience. And that's because there is nibbana. There is something which is beyond our limited experience. There is something beyond our habitual sense experience and our bodily experience and our mental experience. There is something which completely transcends that and is completely beyond that. And that's what the Buddha means when he talks about nibbana. So that the fact that there is nibbana means it's possible to escape this situation of dukkha, but it also means that to do that, we have to get to know dukkha. We have to know dukkha so that we can transcend it, and we have to reflect on our experience as dukkha. But I'll just tell you a little bit of the good stuff. This is a sort of paragraph. The Buddha didn't actually speak in paragraphs. Or rhymes probably, but often some of the suttas are in there. So this is what's called the Parinibbana Sutta, or the Nibbana Sutta in the Udana. So these are very early teachings of the Buddha. So these are considered to be some of the most kind of primal teachings of Buddhism. So bearing in mind everything I've said about just how at a fundamental level everything is kind of not a safe refuge and not a place where we can securely put our trust and find security and safety for ourselves, he says that there is somewhere that we can. And what he says is, there is bhikkhus are non-born, are not brought to being, are not made, are not conditioned. There is bhikkhus are not born, are not brought to being, are not made, are not conditioned. If bhikkhus there were no not born, no not brought to being, no not made, no not conditioned, no escape would be discerned from what is born. But because nibbana exists, in a sense, because nibbana is real, we can be freed from this situation of pervasive dukkha. But since there is a not born, a not brought to being, a not made, a not conditioned, therefore an escape is discerned from what is born. So it's possible for us to move beyond this world of conditioned dukkha, brought to being or made or conditioned. So it's not all gloom. The point of this stuff is so that we grow up. The point of this stuff is so that we grow up in the way that we want to, and that we're able to finally transcend this these situations, this very unstable situation that we're in. Okay, so I'm going to lead the practice now. We'll do a period of stabilizing meditation. I'll lead us through that, and then I'll introduce some ways that we can begin to look at our experience in the light of what I've just talked about. Okay. So I'm hoping that everyone here kind of knows what they're doing with their meditation posture. I'm hoping Anthony might be able to stay awake after seeing him last lunchtime. I did notice him yawning a little bit earlier. Good. And Shobit, you're all right with your posture? You're okay with your meditation posture? You joined us later. Good.
Yes, yeah, Garavachitta, yes. I'm sitting on a meditation table, small.
Fantastic. Good. Okay. So this is going to probably last about 35 minutes. Okay. So if we close our eyes. If at any point the technology gets a bit strange or my voice is too kind of sleepy or quiet, just let me know. Someone just, maybe Sila Bodhi, you could just say, Garavachitta, can you speak up a bit or whatever. So we've got 35 minutes. So we don't need to rush. So maybe just beginning by having a sense that we've got all the time in the world, actually. And this precious opportunity to take some time to try and deepen our experience of the Buddha's teachings. There's probably nothing better that we could be doing right now. Given that we're here. So first of all, just beginning by noticing the sounds that we can hear in the room. And just letting those sounds come to our ears. Noticing if there's any desire to push them away, if they're unpleasant, or curiosity or craving about them if they're pleasant. Just allowing them to take their place in the landscape, our soundscape, which you could say. So we have a sense of being part of the environment we're sitting in. And then having a sense of space in the room in front of us, expanding out from the front of the body, the legs, the face, out into the room in front of us. And behind us. You can almost have a sense of feeling the space with the back of the body, back of the head, backs of the arms, the backs of the legs. And the space to the right and left. And just having a sense of allowing our attention to fall out into the space. Opening out, receiving the space, relaxing into the space. Maybe just noticing at this point how our energy is. If we're starting to get a bit sleepy already, we might need to just sit up a bit more upright and maybe open our eyes a fraction. We might be noticing that we're a bit wired and edgy. And just first of all, just acknowledging that. And then just gently inviting the intention to notice the sensations of contact with the chair or the seat we're sitting on. That could be the back side and the back of the legs, sensations of contact, or the back if it's touching a chair. Then if the mind wanders off, just recognizing that that's what minds do. And when we've noticed that's happened, just gently coming back. The sensations of contact with the seat and the back of the chair. And noticing any sensations of contact with the floor. Feeling the soles of the feet on the floor. And just beginning to be open to the possibility that by resting our attention in these sensations, we're just being drawn into the present moment. We're just inviting our attention into the present moment by noticing the direct sensations, physical sensations we're experiencing. So noticing any sensations in and around the feet. It could be tingling or aching, heat or cold, numbness. Might feel the material of our socks or our shoes. But just trying to notice the direct experience, the real sensate experience that is really there. So not our idea about what's there, but the actual sensation, feeling the sensation in the body with the body. And trusting the process. It's not all going to come and click together immediately. So we can afford to take it easy. Just keep going, keep taking our time. So noticing any sensations between the knees and the feet, and the shins and the calves. Again, being awake to sensations of contact with our clothing or our skin, and any sensations inside the lower legs. And then including the knees, and the upper legs. Just exploring and noticing the sensations anywhere between the knee and the hips. Probably start to notice the sensations with the chair, contact with the chair again. Just having a light touch. So we're not forcing our attention. It's like we're gently and lightly placing it. If it skitters off, then that's fine. We just relax. Take it easy. Feel our presence in the room, our body on the chair, and then just come back. So then noticing any sensations around the pelvis, so it's around the hips, backside, the waist. And then the belly. It's coming out from the underneath the rib cage. Coming down towards the waist, around the belly button, around the lower back, behind the belly. Any sensations inside the lower trunk. And then any sensations around the upper back, so around between the shoulder blades, space between the shoulder blades, up towards the nape of the neck, out towards the shoulders. And then coming back to the front of the body, the rib cage, the breastbone, and then the ribs and the lungs inside the body, collarbone on both sides, coming up to the throat. Quite a lot of sensitivity in the throat. Soft skin on the inside and the outside. Sides of the neck and the back of the neck. The roundness of the skull, back of the head. The ears. The temples. And the forehead and the eyes. And just checking your energy. If you're getting a bit dull, feeling a bit hypnotized, then just straighten up. Bring a bit more quality of awakeness and alertness into your experience. But if you're still wired and buzzing or agitated, maybe just sinking a little into the seat and the contact with the floor. And then noticing the forehead, the eyebrows, the eyes, the sensations in the muscles around the eyes, going back into the head, cheeks. Letting the tongue be soft in the mouth. Notice any sensations in the jaw. And then just sitting with an overall sense of our physical experience as it is right now. Letting go of judging it, wishing it was other than it is. It's all we have right now. And then just beginning to notice around the belly, the waist, the lower back, the rib cage and the upper back. The sensations where we can feel the body being touched and moved by the breath. And again, we're just gently inviting our attention. We're not forcing it on to the breath. We're gently introducing our attention. Politely, in a friendly, gentle, and courteous manner. How the breath is moving the body and moving in the body. Again, if the mind wanders off, feeling our feet on the floor, our body on the chair, overall touching briefly on our physical experience and then coming back to the breath. So let's just stay with the breath. Being open to the direct sensations of the breath, bringing us into the present moment. The mind will move. It will wander off. It's fine. We have no control of that. When we notice it, just gently coming back to our presence in the room. The sensations of the breath moving in the trunk, the belly and the rib cage. Just allowing the body to be still, allowing the mind to follow the stillness of the body. So now we're just going to just notice certain aspects of our experience a little bit more clearly. So first of all, just noticing our body. And just allowing the body sensations to come into awareness more clearly. Not focusing on any particular ones. Just in a sense, opening to the field of physical experience, physical sensation. Sensations coming from the body. Just tuning in. Could be aching, discomfort in some parts of the body. There might be lightness in others. Just being open to that change. Allowing the attention to follow the sensations as they change and move. And then just asking ourselves the question, are those sensations, any of those sensations, permanent? So we're not trying to come up with a thought answer or an intellectual answer, simply asking the question in an open way. Trusting the mind's natural intelligence will give us any information we need. And it probably won't be verbal or thought-based. Are any of these sensations permanent and lasting? Could I make them stay if I wanted to? When the body breaks at death, Where will the sensations be then? Could any of these bodily sensations, pleasant or unpleasant, ever satisfy me? Are they safe? And then just bringing our attention to what we can see on the back of our eyelids, assuming our eyes are closed. The globs of light, colour. So just noticing the field of the eyes, the visual field. Not picking or choosing particular aspects of it, just being open to the whole field. Are any of these colours permanent? Could I make them stay if I wanted to? Is desiring any of these colours ever going to work out for me? Can they ever truly satisfy? Are they safe? Are they safe to rely on? When the eyes of the body break and cease to work at death, what will become of the eyes, the colours then? And then just noticing the quality of our mind. The experience of our mind might feel light or spacious, might feel cramped, might be pleasant, might be something unpleasant in it. Maybe a few thoughts, an emotion, a story. It's that quality of mind, permanent. Is it always there? Can I make it stay? Is it ever going to really work out for me in the end and stabilize? Is my mind safe? And the brain is dying and damaged. And breaking what becomes of my experience of the mind. And then in the last minute of the practice, just sitting, being open to being touched by Nibbana. Okay, now we're going to bring the practice to a close. When you feel ready, you can consider opening your eyes, looking around. I think we might have to say goodbye to anyone on YouTube at this point. So go well. If you're on YouTube, or those of us that are staying on this bit, then we can just take our time